Decorated former combat veteran David Grush went public last week with claims that the U.S. has a decades-old UFO retrieval program. Grush also dropped the bombshell allegation that people have been killed by, quote, non-human intelligences. Here he is on News Nation. Let's watch.
We're definitely not alone. Absolutely, the data points empirically that we're not alone, yeah.
Do we have bodies? Do we have species of
Well,
non-human?
naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not, as fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
Grush, who previously worked as a representative for the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, where his job was to help investigate UFOs, also said recently, quote, "I think the logical fallacy there is because they're advanced, they're kind, we'll never really understand their full intent, and that's because we're not them. But I think what appears to be malevolent activity has happened. That's based on nuclear site probing activities and witness testimony." Grush went further, saying the U.S. would do anything, including killing people, in an effort to keep this secret.
Yeah, so I'm fascinated by this. I don't mean to nerd out again, but this idea that we can perceive beings as malevolent because we don't understand their behavior is a core principle of Star Trek and why the Prime Directive is so important, the non-interference principle. An early episode with this thing they called the crystalline entity. This thing was going around, destroying planets, causing chaos, this big crystal rock-like thing in space. And they realized, this happens a lot in Star Trek, oh, it's just trying to feed. Oh, it's just trying to eat. Oh, it doesn't really realize what it's doing or the impact it's having on other species. And it would be interesting to interrogate whether or not, I mean, this is also the doomsday scenario of so many sci-fi movies. An alien comes, a human overreacts, shoots them, et cetera, and now we're in an intergalactic war. So there is something, I think, kind of satisfying and interesting about someone contemplating that it would be actually difficult to judge the intent of a UFO or
what are the odds
ET?
we encounter or they come here to encounter us, an alien or extra-dimensional or extraterrestrial, a non-human intelligence, but that is like within the ballpark of our intelligence level? What I mean is, like, they're interested in our nuclear stuff. Like ants don't have any relationship to human beings. Like, ants don't go about their lives thinking, what do the human beings think, right?
They're pretty interested in our picnic having behavior.
But we're not perceivable to the ants. We're so different and distinct.
But isn't that kind of the point?
It will be like that with aliens.
I think that's exactly what we're saying. That me and Grush is what we're talking about, is the idea that because ants don't perceive us, and we largely don't pay attention to ants, there are behaviors that we engage in that really have nothing to do with the ants, but that are harmful to them. Let's say we build a condo and it digs up an anthill,
right,
and there are behaviors that they have that are at least irritating to us, if not harmful. There's fire ants and more dangerous kinds of ants. But it's not really about us. They're just protecting their territory or trying to come to our kitchen for snacks or whatever it is. So I think that's a really significant possibility.
But what is being suggested is a similar level. Oh, they have crafts they're recognizably non-human, but we can kind of see that they're spaceships. They're interested in our nuclear secrets. That's like encountering like another country or something, or a human species, like a similar Earth-like planet with similar. Do you know what I mean? That's too close to like what our intelligence and interests and how we do things is. Like a genuine alien will be like, might not even be perceptible to the human in the way that, in the way that microscopic organisms are not perceptible to us.
That's a fascinating point, because Grush also weighed in on that. This is from an article in New York Magazine that is a skeptic of Grush and has tabulated what it considers to be more of his outlandish claims. One of them says, I don't want to necessarily denote origin. I don't think we have all the data to say, oh, they're coming from a certain location. He proposed the vehicles the Pentagon is hiding could have come from a different physical dimension as described in quantum mechanics, saying we know there are extra dimensions due to high energy particle collisions, etc., and there's a theoretical framework to explain that. Does that help? Does that help for you, or does that make it worse?
No, I think that's all possible, but that does not at all, to me, resemble what we're talking about when we're talking about flying objects people have seen and recovered pieces of ships and technology and weird glimpses of things in the desert or where else. That is very different, and that's, I think, largely a hoax and not true. When an actual alien presence will be as different to us. It'll be like a shadow or an ink blot, or it'll come from some.
Yeah.
It'll not be something we can even. It'll be so foreign, so different to anything that it'll be almost like beyond our imagination.
Yeah, I really like that. Some people have critiqued, Star
Or it'll
Trek
be
and
a
other
computer.
sci-fi shows for this like humanoid paradox.
Yeah.
Why does every alien basically look a human with
Humanoid,
makeup
but with
on?
alien, yeah. Well,
Right.
because the costume design was not very good when Star Trek.
Right, we didn't
first,
have sci-fi. They didn't have special effects rather back then, where you could have like blobs
Yeah.
of clouds moving through the hallways or whatever.
Yeah.
But the way they do try to explain it in Star Trek, one of my favorite episodes, there's an arms race. There's this message embedded that somebody finds in an archaeological dig somewhere, and everyone's looking for it. The Federation is trying to get at it because they think it's like a fun artifact. The Klingons are going after it because they think it's a weapon. So are the Romulans. Everyone's chasing this thing through space, and when they find it, spoiler alert for a 30-year-old episode of TV, they discover that an old alien race that died out like millennia before any of us evolved out of the primordial soup knew its race was dying out and scattered its DNA across the galaxy,
Fine.
causing everybody to evolve in the same way.
You have to come up with some kind of explanation along those lines, or else it would
Sure.
be.
But Grush, I will say he's not claiming like little green men or something that just looks like a human in makeup or a small child in makeup. I think that what he's been talking about does contemplate other dimensions, non-human corporeal forms, non-corporeal forms. And he's been very clear again that he has not personally laid eyes on any of this. He was told by a source about the reality of some of this stuff. I also want to push back, Robbie. I saw some interesting pushback against some of your points.
Here. Go ahead.
Some of your points from the last UFO segment. You mentioned that it was incredible to you that aliens would only have landed in the United States and only in rural areas, and what are the odds, et cetera, et cetera. It's worth noting that Grush says the first UFO case he was briefed on involved a vehicle downed in Italy in 1933, decidedly not America. The Mussolini government had allegedly kept it in storage to the end of World War II. Pope Pius VII back-channeled the existence of the object to the United States, which it obtained in 1944 or 1945. So the argument is...
Was that one of the sequels to the Da Vinci Code, or is that a real thing that happened?
Right. They're gonna eat you.
I know. Look, you have to... I'm just expressing my skepticism of, all these subjects. Or maybe... there's another dimension, and evil Robbie from dimension 19684X crossed here, killed and replaced the real Robbie, and is trying to throw you off the set.
I think that's likely. I also love that you're Scully and I'm Mulder in this dynamic.
Wonderful. More Rising right after this.